All right, welcome everyone. For those of you who were unable to attend our last town hall meeting, I just want to reintroduce myself. I am Lito Garcia, proud to be the new principal of Pacific Grove High School and Pacific Grove Community High School. Again, welcome. Tonight, we're going to spend some time together. We would like to introduce to you what we are referring to as an alternate schedule. This schedule is different from the 4 schedules that we presented to you a week ago. Before I continue, I would like to introduce Dr. Porras, our superintendent, and ask him to say a few words.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for making the time to be with us again this evening as we continue to make our way through the summertime and working on our plans to safely reopen our schools and safely begin our work with our students whom we all miss very much. I know that this evening is particularly important because we're trying to present the best model that we possibly can for the high school. As you know, if you look on the website and have been following along, the other sites have the best schedules that we can put together thus far for the board to consider. And so this will be sort of the capper of that. And do want to reiterate that we will be putting out a survey. Mr. Garcia will be talking about this a little bit later, but we will be putting out a survey that the other sites have already put out this afternoon regarding parents' choices regarding distance learning and in-person learning. So you'll be getting that probably tomorrow from the high school if you've not seen it yet. And also just to remind you, the board is meeting this Thursday, the 16th, at 6:30 is the open session. And none of these plans are final. There are best recommendations for the board. And we'll be discussing with the board the possibility of passing some of these plans, accepting some of these plans, or kind of next steps. So looking forward to seeing you at that board meeting. And last but not least, please do check on the website as much as you can under the reopening plans portion. We are trying to keep all of those items as up to date as possible. We hear from the CDC, from the County Health, and the California Department of Public Health pretty much daily. So we're trying to adjust our plans accordingly. With that, once again, just thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all the staff members that are also here. I see Mr. and Mrs. Buller over there smiling away. So thank you, everyone, and appreciate it. And we'll look forward to more input as we go along. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. I appreciate you giving me the time.
Absolutely. All right. So I just want to highlight a couple of points that are important to consider when developing any master schedule, but more so in the times that we find ourselves in. And that is the pieces highlighted here. As you can see, we clearly need to, want to, and will focus on academic accountability, achievement, and attendance. We need to maximize our instructional minutes, get the most out of the day. It's also very critical that we support students in their social emotional learning and provide the necessary interventions based on what our students need. It's also critical that we provide a hybrid model that is going to support academic excellence, social interaction, and meet the health and safety mandates as outlined by the County of Monterey and the California Department of Health. And of course, that does include physical safety for not only our students, our staff, and community members as well. With that, I just want to take a couple minutes and just do a quick review of the other schedules that we presented last week and that were included in the first survey that we sent out to you. Again, just as a refresher, and for those of you who are new to this, just kind of catch you up to speed, if you will. So the first schedule is what we refer to as option 1. This schedule had students working online Monday Tuesday, and Wednesday. Asynchronous, what that basically means is students are working independently with work that's been provided to them by their teachers. Synchronous work, online work, you are live, just like we're doing now. And so students would be live with their teacher. With option one, students are in person 1 day a week based on their alpha. Red Gold 1.0. This is a schedule that is spread out over 2 weeks. So the first week, the red week, students are doing all online distance learning. The second week, the gold week, students are working the first Monday asynchronously, so online, and then they're on campus 2 days a week during the gold week. Red Gold 2.0. This increases the number of days that students are on campus over 2 weeks. So it takes it from 2 days a week in the previous one to 3 days over 2 weeks. 1 day in the red week and 2 days in the gold week. And then gold week only. So similar to option one, gold week only is something that happens every single week, weekend in, week out. So again, Monday is asynchronous, and you saw a pattern there. And so as a district, what we've agreed to, K-12, is that Monday will always be distance learning, online work. With the gold week only, kids are on campus 2 days a week. Just a little housekeeping. If for some reason you find that your, well, let me restate it this way. If you could please mute yourself. If you're already muted, you're fine. But if you see that you're unmuted, if you could mute yourself, I would appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so here we go. This is what we're referring to as the alternate schedule. I'm going to go through several slides to explain the schedule along with Mr. Steinbach, and we'll take an opportunity for comments and questions after we've gotten through the alternate schedule, okay? So as I mentioned earlier, Monday, always distance learning, okay? Now, a key difference of this schedule than all of the other schedules is that this schedule is a quarter schedule. So you're taking a semester's worth of work, and we're having students do that semester's worth of work within 1 quarter. However, instead of having 6 to 7 classes, students are going to have 3 to 4 classes. So their focus is going to be narrowed. So, as you can see in front of you, Monday, online learning, they have their 3 to 4 classes, periods 1 through 4. On Tuesday, students will only focus on 1 class, and that would be their period 2 class. If their last name is A through L, they're going to report to school for a morning session of period 2. If their last name is M through Z, they're going to report to an afternoon session of period 2. There's also the possibility, strong possibility, that students would also have some online work that day. They can do it asynchronously or synchronously. And again, the focus is period 2. Wednesday, period 3 only, morning group, afternoon group. Thursday, period 4 group, morning, afternoon. And then Friday, period 1 group, morning or afternoon. So students are on campus every single day. However, it's either a morning option or an afternoon option with a break in between. Second quarter. So students have wrapped up periods 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 within the first quarter. Now they move on to the next grouping of classes. So again, Monday, asynchronous distance learning. Tuesday, period 5, AM group, PM group. Wednesday, period 6. Thursday, period 7. Friday, period 1 or 7. So not everybody takes a first period. So there may be the possibility for students to have a first period in the first quarter or perhaps a first period in the second quarter. That's something that we'll work out at a later date. But the biggest takeaway from this is students focusing on a smaller group of classes and completing those classes one quarter after the next. Here's just a bigger view of what the schedule would look like and specifically what the time commitment would be for students on a given day. So again, Monday, asynchronous distance learning. Students have one class period a day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's in person. If you're in the AM group, which right now we have designated for students A through L, they're going to be at school from 8:45 until 11 a.m. Then from approximately 11:15 to 12:15, it'll be teachers' opportunity to do prep work, and it will be an opportunity to clean the classrooms. And then at 12:30, the next group comes in, and we have a designated M through Z. So again, one period a day, morning group, afternoon group, roughly an hour in between the groups to do some prep and also to clean. Just another option to help you understand what we're talking about tonight. Students take 3 to 4 classes. They complete a semester's worth of learning within one quarter. Students would be on campus a minimum of 3 times a week. Students would report either AM group, and this model provides built-in time for cleaning between cohorts. I am unsure why there's scribbles on there. I do not have a toddler, so I don't know who got a hold of my PowerPoint here, but apologize for that. There's no hidden meaning behind those scribbles. All right. With that, I just asked Mr. Steinbach if there's anything else that you would like to highlight with this alternate schedule before we open it up to comments and questions.
I do not. I think you covered it, Lito. Thank you.
Okay. Shane, do you want to talk about the process for asking questions or making comments?
Yeah, sure. If you guys go down to your participant icon, I guess it would be at the very bottom, it'll give you an option to go ahead and raise your hand. I see a couple folks who have already raised their hand, and we're going to try to get to as many folks as we can, just like last time. Those of you were here last time, we got to as many folks as we could, keeping time in mind. I will then unmute you, and go ahead and add your comments, questions, and the like. We'll do our best to answer your questions and comments. And then at that point, when you are done speaking, if you could mute yourself, and remember to mute yourself after you were speaking, we'd really appreciate that. Okay. So it looks like we have a few hands already. Nandita is up, and I'll go ahead and ask to unmute, and then Nandita, you'll have to unmute yourself now.
Hi, I am a parent of a PGHS incoming sophomore, and I have a couple of questions which relate to actually all the scenarios that you have presented.
Okay.
The first, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one is that are we allowed to switch between the options, the hybrid option and the completely online option? in the middle of the school year, or does it, once we decide what we want to do, we have to keep with that for the whole year? And the second question I have is, the CDC said today that almost 40% of the cases are asymptomatic. So are we actually going to do any testing, especially to protect our teachers and maybe even the students? And if yes, how often are we going to be able to do that? And the third question is that what metrics will you be using to choose between the low, medium, and high risk scenarios that you have presented before? Will it be either a mandate from the governor or local authorities, or the number of infections and deaths in the community, or the number of infections and deaths in the schools, or some other measures?
Those are all very important questions. I do really appreciate you bringing those forward. My goal tonight was to focus on the alternate schedule and ensure that our parents and students and community members understand what alternate option we're bringing forward. In regards to being able to alternate from distance learning to in-person learning, at the end of tonight's meeting, I'm actually going to be sending out a district survey to parents. One has already been sent to our elementary parents and middle school parents. And we are going to seek input as to what parents are thinking right now, as far as whether they would like to participate in a hybrid model or go distance learning completely. It's not a commitment at this time. We will be seeking another opportunity prior to our start date of August 6th to see where parents stand at that time. In regards to your questions about health, we need to and will rely on Monterey Public Health and the California Public Health directors, governors, and California superintendent, as well as our county superintendent, working in conjunction with Dr. Porras.
Okay, thank you so much. Next up, Phoebe, I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you. This is bouncing around on me. I apologize, you guys. Okay.
So, yeah. First of all, I'd like to say thank you, because this schedule is, I think it takes more into consideration like the students and their mental well-being, and I think this is a really nice schedule considering the situation. So first of all, what will the homework load be like? Because we're only going to be having one class per week. How will the homework load change per day?
So, being that we are taking a semester's worth of work and condensing it down to one quarter, it is going to move at a rapid pace, but we'll follow our district guidelines as far as homework minutes and ensure that we are not overloading our students with too much work, too much studying. We definitely have to find a balance, and we will work very hard to ensure that we create that balance.
All right. And will lunches and breaks be at home, I'm assuming?
Yes, lunches and breaks. Although, let me take a step back though. On lunches, we will have to work with our food services department, but we may be able to provide to-go lunches for the AM group, and then provide something for the PM group. But we'll have to get into those details if and when we know which schedule will go.
It's the mom. Can I ask a question, or should we raise our hands?
Keep going.
Okay. First, I'd like to say that I think the alternate schedule is absolutely fantastic. In terms of a public health perspective, keeping as minimal number of kids interacting with the other numbers of kids as possible is really optimal. I really want to applaud you for thinking outside the box. I think this is gorgeous. Congratulations. My question for you is number one, how many kids are you going to see approximately in a class in a day? Are we looking at 15 or so, 6 feet apart?
So our magic number is 12.
Right.
We may have a few classes that are bigger than that. If it exceeds our 6 foot distancing, then we'll take a larger class, let's say a class of 17, and we'll find a bigger room for them so that we can still accommodate the 6 foot recommended distance.
Oh, fantastic. And then my next question, then I'll let other people ask questions. Are you going to be having as close to similar cohorts as possible? So for instance, on Tuesday, you have 12 kids in one class learning English, and then on Wednesday, is this going to be a similar or same class in math class, or are we going to have completely different kids day to day based on their levels?
The classes are going to be different. We can't keep, using the magic number of 12, we can't keep 12 kids together Tuesday through Friday. It will be different.
Is there a way to make it as similar as possible? Because unfortunately that kind of undoes the magic a little bit. So you're talking about 15, let's say each class is different, 15 times 4. Is still a large number. Just something to consider going forward. I bet that you can have a systems analyst look at it. It wouldn't be perfect, but you definitely couldn't have as many kids with similar, just a suggestion, similar levels as possible day to day, day in and day out. That would be the most beneficial from a public health perspective. But again, I think you're really in the right direction here. I'm very impressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phoebe. And Todd Lyons.
All right, thank you very much. A couple of questions on it. Again, apologize, don't have a copy of the slides in front of me. On the times when the students are in the classroom, it said asynchronous or synchronous, but they're actually synchronous when they're in the classroom. You're saying if someone was outside of that class, they could run it asynchronous or synchronously, but the in-person is always synchronously. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. So we're going to have a group of kids who are going to be physically on campus in front of a teacher. And the kids so if you're there in the morning, the M through Z kids who aren't there could be an opportunity for them to actually be live with that AM group or be doing some online work independently during that morning time.
Okay, I think that's starting to get into the second question I have, which is what's the impact on the class choices? And I think this is a slightly different take on what the previous parent said. Because obviously, if our child wants to take a certain number of these really, certain classes, is she still going to be able to take those classes, or is it going to impact negatively on her ability to take certain classes?
Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, absolutely. The master schedule, Todd, has actually not been manipulated in any way. So, a student who is in an AP class 4th period will, maintain that class, for example, and so on and so on. CTE culinary class, that student's still in that class. The beauty of this schedule is we did not have to scrap any of the master schedule. So all the choice, the student choice that entered into play dating back from this last February is still intact.
Okay, no, great. Thank you very, very much.
And Brianna?
Hi, how are y'all today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. One question I have as a military family is, don't get me wrong, I think the schedule is wonderful, but you might have some people that are leaving, in the middle, like NPS graduates early December. How would that possibly affect them moving to different schools if technically they've already finished one full semester of part of the classes and haven't finished the other ones? Will that, they be off when it comes to moving?
I think I might be able to handle that one, Lito.
Go for it.
in a regular school year without us, having to do these tweaks and that type of thing, students would regularly finish, all 5 of their classes, all 6 of their classes, how many classes they're taking given in a given semester come December. In this schedule, for 9 weeks, which is our first quarter, students will finish their second, third, fourth, if they have a first period, their first period course in that 9-week time. And then the next quarter, which is another 9 weeks, but leading up to the end of the semester and into December, they will then finish their third, fifth, and sixth. I forget which classes there are in that quarter, but it would actually maintain the same timing schedule as far as matching up with other institutions.
Next question.
Oh, Brianna, are you still there? Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on. And Julie?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I wanted to say I like the new schedule, how it has a balance of more time for the kids actually at school and class and allows for cleaning in between the cohorts. And I have a couple of concerns or questions. The first one is because of the way it's broken down by class, I have a concern about math as I'm concerned about the continuity that's lacking in math classes, especially because it builds on itself. And if there's any way math can be built into the schedule so it is continuous.
I'm sorry, was that a question or just?
Is there a way that math could be throughout the entire schedule instead of broken down so that you don't have math class at all for an entire 9 weeks, say, and then you have to pick it up again?
I'm not going to say no, but it's something we could look at. The district that I just came from, they have one comprehensive high school that has been on a very traditional block system, and they've been doing this for well over a decade. And when they went to roll out this schedule, there was a concern about math, students taking it perhaps the first semester and not having it again until the following school year, and a concern about world languages. And they were able to bring forward quite a few studies that showed that it did not cause a concern of students having what some people may see as a gap of time between their learning. But again, I'm not saying no, but it is something we could look at.
Okay, thank you. And then I know there's concern from the teachers and parents on how to keep the kids accountable for attendance and things like that. And I wanted to find out how the teachers are going to be held accountable to make sure that they are keeping the students on task and interested and motivated and not falling through the cracks. I know we've done distance learning in the past, and there wasn't always that continuity, and I know it's not going to be the same as actually visually seeing the students in the classroom and being able to visually see if a kid doesn't understand or they're not paying attention or they're just kind of falling behind. So I wanted to find out how the teachers are going to be accountable for that.
So a couple things. One, related to just attendance. Students, if we're 100% distance learning at any point, it's mandated now through Senate Bill 98 that we take attendance. We were not required across California. We were not required to take attendance when we went into the shelter in place. But now we are. So we will have systems built in place where teachers are able to check in with students on a daily basis, and that information will be recorded on a weekly basis. And if we notice that a student is not participating, not showing up, we will take the steps to investigate what is going on, make sure that we reach out to parents in case they may not be aware, and get everybody involved together to help that student get back on track. It's going to be an expectation of all of us every day.
Okay, thank you. And how about teacher accountability?
That's built in because they will be making contact with students every single day.
And how are you guys tracking that?
So again, at the end of the week, we will have a system in place where teachers will record that information related to each of the students that they're responsible for. We just got this Senate bill 2 weeks ago, so we're going to get into the weeds and figure out the details of it. But it is something that it will take place, and we all want our students to be successful, and I need to ensure that we're all on the same page to make that happen.
Okay, thank you. And then just one more request. I'm wondering if you guys could please share the results of the survey once you have the results.
Yes,
broken down by teacher, parent, and student. That would be great for us all to be able to see that.
We can do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie. And let's go with Jennifer Schmidt.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm the mother to an incoming junior who's been with the district since kindergarten. I have to point out the irony that we're doing this online and talking about sending our kids back to class in some form. It really strikes me. While I appreciate and really like the effort that I've seen go into the schedules that have been presented, they would work well if we were dealing with something that was more known. But as you know, weekly we're finding more about this virus in regards to how it hits younger people. So I have a lot of concern. My background and my husband are medical, so we have a lot of concerns. My first question is there an opportunity for families to opt out to total distance learning?
So earlier, or just actually the previous person who had the questions regarding attendance. So the Senate Bill 98 does provide some guidance, if you will, as it relates to parents choosing 100% distance learning. So tonight, after this meeting, I will be sending out two surveys. One of them is a district-wide survey asking parents at this time, what is your interest? Is it 100% distance learning? Is it a hybrid model? You're not locked in with this survey, but we just want to see where people are at this time. And prior to school starting, we'll send out the survey again and see where everybody is at. And then at that time, I think we can be able to give people a more direct answer as to the distance learning option.
Great, thank you. And I want to follow up on something Phoebe had pointed out about how cohorts would have to be interchangeable to a degree to keep kids in the right classes. Is there a plan how you plan to notify if there is in fact an exposure? And how many of the different cohorts are you going to have to deal with if that occurs?
So on our district website, we do have a very detailed plan related to safety and health for our students as it relates to COVID. And we will work very closely with Monterey County Health if and when we do have a confirmed case on campus, whether it's a student or a staff member. And then we'll have to work with them as to what lengths do we go as far as isolation.
Great, thank you. And I have one final quick one. If our children are in fact going to be on campus, do you have a plan on keeping them separate during passing times, during the change when they're coming and going? Because that's, as you know, chasing cats around a big playground. It's nearly impossible.
So this particular schedule, the alternate schedule, actually has over an hour built in between the two cohorts. The previous 4 schedules, we don't have that option in the other schedules. It's a normal passing period time.
So there's not like plans for one-way hallways or anything. There's still going to be intermixing and mingling between classes?
Well, with this particular schedule, it's just 1 class a day, so they're not traveling from one classroom to the next. They come show up for period 2 on Tuesday, they're done, and they leave. The other schedules, we would have to look at, the feasibility of having one-way traffic.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jennifer. And Jill?
Hi there. So I'm really encouraged by this schedule. I think it's well thought out. My question though is, are we committing to, between the AM and the PM cohorts, to having those classrooms cleaned and disinfected? Or are we going to be using different classrooms between the AM and PM so the disinfecting is not done until after school is over?
So the idea right now is that we would clean the classrooms between the 2 cohorts so that the teacher has their materials and doesn't have to travel to a different room. So that's what we're doing. And then the cleaning and disinfection would take place in the afternoon and into the evening when we're done with school.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jill. And Margot and student?
Hi. Hi, everyone. I just want to acknowledge, Jennifer's point. I really appreciated that, Jennifer. And I have to say I have very mixed feelings, and I think that's, where we're at. But I have to tell you, there's a lot of excitement from my anonymous student here for this plan, and we really appreciate all the work that's gone into it. The one thing I'm very curious about, it seems great in terms of having the students on campus. And I think we heard in the last town hall from the students themselves how badly they wanted that and how important they saw it for their own learning experience. I'm curious about this from the teacher's point of view, because we're asking the teachers to really accelerate their teaching. And I guess part of me is wanting to know, is this something that the teachers are supporting? Have they agreed?
Yes, so our teachers do support this schedule. It was actually put forward by one of our teachers, and we held a meeting with them last week to discuss this, to see if there was even interest to bring this forward to our parents and students. And the teachers really do feel that this is the best schedule that we've presented so far. Okay.
Thanks, Margot. And Jenny?
Hi, thank you so much. My question pertains to the bathroom facilities and other communal areas. What is the plans for those?
So the issue and concern that I hear you bring forward is something that we're going to have to figure out logistically with the bathrooms. I will say that this particular schedule that we're presenting this evening does afford us more flexibility with the need or desire to be able to get those bathrooms cleaned more frequently. I don't have a direct answer for you as it relates to the other schedules, because we would have students on campus for multiple periods with multiple passing periods. We have discussed in general terms, perhaps designating bathrooms to particular wings, but it is a concern.
We've also discussed having, utilizing our campus supervisors and potentially having it so that only one student could come in and out of restrooms at one given time. And personally, I feel that this schedule would make that more manageable, as opposed to having 4 class periods in a day with passing, with break, with lunch. In fact, I don't know how really we would have done that, but we're certainly this certainly would be more manageable with this schedule. Okay, thank you. And Thomas?
Hi. So I just have 2 questions. So one of them's not exactly related specifically to this schedule, but just to all the schedules in general. What is going to be the policy for switching classes? Because when all the students signed up for classes, it was February and March. And quite frankly, we didn't know what the school looked like. We had expectations when we were choosing our classes, and a lot of them aren't really they're not going to be what we signed up for, quite frankly. What is the school's policy on switching out of classes that, given the circumstances, we're no longer going to enjoy?
At this time, the counselors are still using, I want to say it's July 29th, maybe 28th, as a date for students to come in and potentially, rearrange schedules. We haven't changed that at all. And if we have an imbalance in a class, we do expect to have to potentially move students from one cohort to the next to make sure that we don't have X amount of students in a particular classroom at a given time. But we don't see that really as a barrier right now, Thomas.
Okay. Okay. That's fair.
Sorry, Thomas.
Sorry.
Just before we leave that question, so if there's a desire to change a class, just email your counselor.
Okay. That's great. And then I had one other thing I kind of want to say, which is I, as a student, don't really like this plan compared to the other one. I know there's been a lot of support for it, but for the reason you guys like it, actually, I really don't like it because it's limiting who we're seeing each day to 15 people. And that's a really low number. We're probably not going to be able to see very many of our friends, if any, at all. Like the other plan already cuts the number of people you're seeing in half. This is cutting it to 15 people. And because of that, we're just not going to be able to really see the people that we care about. And I think while the other plan doesn't do it great, this plan does that aspect a lot worse. And because of that, I like the Gold Week, Red Week plan a whole lot better than this one.
Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas.
All right.
And Kimberly?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
This is Molly Momberger. I'm going to be a senior this next year, and generally about this plan specifically, actually, I have a concern regarding AP classes. So because this is going to be learning the subjects will not be continuous, I'm just worried that with AP classes, I'm worried that in learning the subject, we'll have, a quarter break between, say if I have it second period, I have AP math, second period, and, I'm learning it first quarter and third quarter. So regarding that, I'm just worried when AP testing comes around, as I know it. I'm concerned that when I'm not in the class year round, I'm not going to have, the built upon knowledge that will prepare me for the AP test well enough. And I won't be in that class while I'm going into the AP test. So I won't have, my teacher to go into every day and ask questions or study with. So I'm just concerned about that generally regarding this plan. So just thought I'd let that be known. And then also I had a question. What will happen if, miraculously Corona will go away, by second semester and we're ready to go back to school full time, what would the transition be like? Would we have to stay in this plan year round, or could we switch back to full-time classes regularly?
So we would have to finish whatever, if we start a semester, we have to finish the semester under this alternate schedule. As you stated, if it, miraculously we're able to return at the start of the second semester, we could go back to a more traditional schedule.
Okay. And then just a quick little thing. I'm assuming masks will be required, but I just want to know, will students have their temperatures taken when they go into class?
Yes, that will be part of the protocol.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Molly. And Carrie and Paolo?
Hi, folks. I'll give you some video here. One sec. Hi, got Paolo here. I have one comment and a couple questions. First, I want to thank you guys for this new plan. It is definitely going in the right direction. I think this is an improvement over what we saw with the other alternatives. There's still a couple concerns, but it's definitely an improvement. So thank you for that. I want to second Jennifer Zeidberg and Jennifer Schmidt's comments and add support to what they said about the mixing of cohorts. I really like that you've really identified a way to generate some smaller cohorts and keep groups somewhat small, but the intermingling of those cohorts 4 times throughout the week is problematic, I think. My questions are cleaning in between the cohorts between the morning and the afternoon. Will that be done by teachers or by a cleaning crew?
It'll predominantly be done by teachers and other staff.
Okay. And then as Jennifer Schmidt mentioned, there's a lot of, this is really a moving target. There's just so many unknowns about this, and it's really a challenge for everyone to try to address and mitigate the risks that we do know about. Some of the emerging research and current trends are indicating that this might be more of an airborne thing than we had previously thought. And this question might be more appropriate for the district, and maybe I'll ask it again on Thursday, but since I have you here now, are there any discussions going on about ventilation or improving airflow or dealing with that in the classroom to address the airborne nature of this?
I can pick that one up, Lito, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we our grounds and our facilities departments are all working on the filtration system and getting that right now as part of summer work. So it's definitely on the conversation. And so that a lot combined with other disinfecting that will be happening, we're going to try to address that airborne aspect of it. But the HVAC systems are all being worked on right now.
Okay, thanks. I still get to that question. Hold on. Last question. This one's from Carrie. She wanted to make sure I didn't forget. Are the distance learners following the same schedule for the week as those students that are in person?
Yes, they will.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sarah?
Hi, thank you so much for this alternate block schedule. Just in questions with the cohorting, is it possible that the students could do either their PE or elective at home and only do the math, science, history, and English at school? So then we could actually look to possibly cohorting 2 classes versus trying to cohort 3 to 4 classes in the quarter. So that is kind of my first question.
We've committed to having the students be able to have the same experience, whether it is a core class, math, science, English, history, or an elective class. And in part, one of the main reasons for me in particular of wanting to see that happen is that we do have the A to G requirements, and it's important that our students get equally robust experience with some in-person and with some online work, regardless if it's a core class or an elective class.
Okay, got it. And my second question kind of comes down to when you start looking at the scheduling of Q1 and Q2, is it going to be taken into consideration that you're going to split like the English and the history, because those are heavy English-based classes, and the math and the science? So they are math-based classes, so that you're not going to like have one kid, you know, all doing history and English in the first quarter and the math and science the second, so that that balance of math and science, is that going to be taken into consideration when we start putting kids into their schedules?
We're basing this off of the current master schedule that has been designed. So whatever is lined up for period 2, that is going to be the student's experience. That would require starting from scratch, and honestly, I don't know if it's something that we can do. So we'll look at it. We'll see what kind of impact it has, and we'll have to go from there. Until we really have a schedule that's been decided on, we haven't gotten down to the smaller details. And when that decision has been made, then we'll be able to look at those issues, some of the issues that have been brought forward, including the one that you just mentioned.
Okay. Can a student also participate in this kind of exact schedule, but do it from distance, or are they required to come onto campus to participate in this?
So so quick answer, distance learning is fine. Okay. The schedule will match up just fine with that. All of our schedules, we need to be able to transition quickly, seamlessly to distance learning in the event that we cannot have students physically and staff physically on campus.
Got it. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the schedule that you guys have come up with.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. And Henry?
Yes. First of all, I would like to thank you very much for this new schedule. It's obviously a lot of thought went into it, and it's an improvement over the previous ones. And I'm really impressed with it. My only question really is, do you think that you might be able to explore an extra half hour to an hour on campus? Because 7:30 to 3:45 doesn't seem unreasonable. And that would give kids 3 hours of instruction instead of only 2 hours and 15 minutes. 2 hours and 15 minutes just doesn't seem like that much for one subject per week. And so I was just wondering if that would be something you could look at in the future.
We can look at it. I do want to say it's the 2 hour, we'll just say 2 hours, just to keep it simple right now. 2 hours of direct instruction. There will be also either asynchronous or synchronous learning in conjunction with that. So they will have more time, whether it's live like we're doing now, synchronous or asynchronous, being assigned some work to do independently. Okay, Shane.
Thank you, Henry. And let's go to Teresa.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I really appreciate you guys putting all this time into finding schedules, and more importantly, opening up this forum so that we can all have our input. I know it's a big crunch on your time. It's supposed to be your summer break, so thank you. I have a couple of questions. I'm going to jump back to Julie early on was talking about holding teachers accountable. And I'm just asking, what kind of training are the teachers getting right now to implement either synchronous or asynchronous if we need to go distance learning? Are they getting extra professional development or training in new kinds of forums so that they can enrich the students better? Because I know that my son received a lot of stuff that was basically pushing other platforms. He never even saw some of his teachers. And there's a lot of research that shows that students need to see their teachers so that they can learn better. So I'm wondering what kind of training is going on for your teachers right now?
So we did have a group of our high school teachers who attended a multi-day professional development through Phoenix University in conjunction with a online learning platform corporation. And we are also looking at opportunities for our high school teachers to come together prior to school starting in preparation for distance learning.
All right, thank you. And then this goes back to Jennifer when she was talking about the cohorts leaving the classroom, and Mr. Steinbeck had mentioned one-way hall room. I think what she was trying to say was that you have several classes of cohorts that will be leaving their classroom at the same time going into the hallway. And how will you manage all those students going into their classroom at the same time and coming out, because they'll still be using the hallways and passing other cohorts, as well as then creating the one-way hallway plan is a great idea, because then you could have bathrooms designated for certain students and they would all be moving and mixing a lot less. So that's something to think about, as well as Mr. Serpa was talking about ventilations, and I'm wondering if you've thought about leaving the windows open and the doors open and turning off the drinking fountains, and just to try to eliminate this cross-contamination. And finally, when you talk about the students not showing up teaching asynchronous, will the classes be filmed, or is this just using fill in the blank and other platforms that they would get the material pushed to them? Are they actually going to be looking at Zoom links of their classes where they are being involved in what the discussion was, or is it just pushing to other platforms? So what does that asynchronous look like?
It's going to be a mixture of everything that you mentioned.
Okay. All right. Well, I really appreciate your time and effort. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And Sally Richmond? And Sally, if you have to unmute yourself now.
Thank you. I did once. Okay. So this is Sally Richmond. I'm a teacher at the high school, and in general, this is my favorite plan of them all as well. I just want the parents and the students to understand that this is going to require a great deal of work on the students' part in order for us to get through a semester's worth of work in 1 quarter. So personally, I plan on having videos and assignments every single day of the week. So even though I only see your student once a week, I'm going to have assignments 5 days a week. And since I generally give a test every 3 or 4 weeks during a regular semester, we can count on a test every week or every other week when we're meeting. So it will require a great deal of work. Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. And Ava?
Hi, I'm another incoming senior, and I'd like to go off Molly's point in regards to the AP exams. So, like, I'm taking 4 AP classes next year, and, like, I don't see how this schedule will be fully preparing us for the exams, since they're, like, usually located in the very beginning of May. And that would mean that if we're taking AP classes in the 2nd or 4th quarter, we would either not be able to fully finish the course before the exams, or we would have to like learn the material in a shorter amount of time than we did the material in the 1st and 3rd quarter. And like on top of that, we would be having to relearn and study the material that we already finished in the 1st quarter and the 4th quarter. So like I don't see how that would all be able to fit in at the end and be fully preparing us.
I can try to answer that, Lito. Ava, thank you for your comments. Just knowing our AP teachers and just our teachers just in general, I know that they would be made available to you to answer any questions coming in during potential office hours if we could somehow manage that, potentially on an asynchronous day. One interesting piece about this schedule is that if a student does not have a first period, that means that the Friday potentially could be a kind of an open day to reach out to teachers, that type of thing. 2nd quarter, the teachers who choose to teach their first period class, 1st quarter will also be made available during that time. I just anticipate students being able to reach out to their teachers quite often during this schedule, particularly since the teachers and students for that matter are only required to focus on one discipline or one class per day. Okay, thank you, Ava. And Sandeep?
Hi, let me just put myself off video here. I can't. Oh well. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for this town hall. I really appreciate it. I think it sounds like you've found the lowest risk way for the kids to have some social, emotional, and in-person teaching contact. And it's been amazing to watch this process over the last couple months. I know the state guidance is to open schools only if it can be done fully safely. And the one area that I think I still have a bit of a question about is the testing, and if there is a case and exposure. I think there's a concern that even though this is probably the lowest risk approach, still a chance that this reopening can serve as an incubator unintentionally for the community. And then we have to close again for a short period of time. And the kids have had some contact, which is wonderful. We may be behind where we were beforehand from an epidemic perspective in the community and the ability to reopen again. And it seems like besides the environmental protection measures, the ability to detect cases among teachers or students early to try to prevent that and jump on it and have a exposure contact tracing robust approach is really critical. And with the recent news about the increase in cases in California and the the delays in testing, turnaround time being a week or so, that's more of a concern. So I guess the school district has been put in so much effort in every detailed planning. And I guess I'm wondering, can we be assured or confident about the same thing for the public health response in terms of the protocols for testing, if it's random testing or regular testing among teachers or students, and the resources, human resources and the financial resources. I know it's a discussion with the County Office of Education, the County Health Department, and affects the whole county. But that information from the county would really be helpful as a parent and as a community member to know, are we 10% of that plan resourced, 50% of that plan resourced if there's a few cases? If not, I fear that we may end up in a situation where we have a cluster of cases and have to close again, and we've seeded the community, which has so far been relatively spared. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mario?
How you doing? I just
good.
have two questions. I work at the hospital, and obviously, we're full at times with the COVID patients, and we've created our own protocols in conjunction with the CDC and county health department and the state and all that stuff. So my first question is the hospital, anybody from the infectious disease department involved, or maybe assisting you guys with some of these protocols that you have in place? And second, just because my son wants to know, is sports. What are you guys' thoughts on sports? Thank you.
So related to sports, I will be sending out a letter, an email, if you will, to all parents at the end of this week in relationship to sports, and kind of outline where we stand at this time. So you can expect that later this week. In your comments, the first statement, we do work directly with the county health director. Our director of facilities is working with the director of health to ensure that we are following the guidelines that have been issued to us by the state.
Thank you, Mario. And Katie?
Okay, thanks very much. I just wanted to speak very quickly to
Molly and Ava. This is Katie Selfridge. I'm an AP teacher at the high school, and just to assuage some fears really quickly, you know, as teachers, we have been in contact with each other, and we're not going to throw you under the bus. So we will definitely be there to help you with enrichment throughout the course of the year, and we will be there to answer any questions. We'll have additional office hours, so we'll be there for you guys. So just know that that's the case. Okay. That was all. Thank you. Thanks very much for having this town hall, guys.
Thanks, Katie.
You're welcome.
And Phoebe?
Hi, it's Jen, Mom. So my question is regarding the teachers. I was looking at the schedule, and it appears that for at least one quarter, we're not going to see almost half of the teachers on campus. What happens with those guys? Are they being furloughed or? So
No,
for instance,
the teachers will be, our teachers will be working.
every single teacher will be teaching?
Yes,
it's just
absolutely.
Okay, all
Yes.
right, sorry, my misunderstanding. Great, well, good.
No,
I want to keep them employed.
me too.
Of course. Me too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phoebe, or Jen. And Julie.
Hey, I just want to make sure, I know this has been brought up a couple times and maybe I wasn't clear enough earlier, and it goes back to teacher accountability. And I know that at the end of the year last year, there were some teachers that were really checked out. There were some teachers that were great at always involving their kids on a regular basis, but there were some teachers that did not hold regular classes with their students, or only held office hours and assumed that the students would come to them. And if they didn't come to them, they thought that was successful. So back to my question is, how are you guys going to be accountable for the teachers to make sure that they're actually meeting with the students on a regular basis?
Lito, I'll start this off.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
You know, when we went into this, we had 2 days, actually less than 2 days, to prepare to go into full distance learning. It's just something that really none of our teachers were used to. We were trying to, as administrators, give as much directive as possible. And I have to say, when the held harmless came into play, it was extremely difficult on our teachers as well. And that is one of the reasons why we are attempting to provide up to 5 days of professional development at the beginning of the year. To go back to Lito's point about Assembly Bill, or Senate Bill, I should say, 98, there is a portion of that bill that states that teachers will be giving what's called a time value to certain assignments and things like this, asynchronously and synchronously, which we haven't gone down to the nuts and bolts of how we're going to achieve this, but it does need to be run by administrator. There are checks and balances that are going to be in place. So hopefully that'll, help you out with some of your worries, Julie. Okay, and Demi? Oh, I'm having difficulty here. Give me 1 second. Demi, are you already unmuted? Okay, I'll try to go back to you. Harrison?
Hello, this is actually Sarah, his wife. I was wondering if you could clarify just ever so slightly for me with quarter one on Fridays is period one. If the student doesn't have period one, what will they be doing? And then on quarter two, similar question. The slide said for Fridays it would be period 1 or 7. Just curious, just a little clarification on that. Thank you so much.
So students will have some asynchronous work that they can be doing during that time. It also create opportunities for office hours. And there is also the possibility that a student could have a physical appointment with a teacher to physically come on campus and perhaps make up an exam or seek additional help. So that Friday, if a student doesn't have a class, really creates a lot of flexibility to be able to support that student in their learning.
Okay, thank you. And Jenny?
Yes, thank you so much. I have two questions. Will the teachers be provided the flexibility if they wanted to move the classroom outside? And then also, how will substitute teachers be prepared and able to jump in when needed?
So yes, the teachers can move their class outside if they would like to. I think that's a great idea. Under any circumstances, just being outside is fantastic. With our substitutes, we will have to ensure that they have some training coming into this so that they can provide the appropriate instruction for our kids.
Thanks, Jenny. And Larry?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Larry Hagquist. I'm a teacher at the high school as well. I've been at PGHS for 23 years, and I just wanted to say that in response to some of the comments about comparing last spring to this upcoming fall, I just wanted to echo what Shane was commenting on, that we were in a very, very unique situation last spring. I personally was fortunate enough to have had some experience teaching online prior to the shutdown. Also, my kids are a little bit older, so I had some time. I had the connectivity at home. There were a lot of things working in my favor that way. And I just think that with the training and with the planning, once we know this schedule that we're going to be teaching with, that our staff is going to come together and just be extraordinary like we always are. So I'm really confident the staff's going to do a great job. So I hope just my familiarity with working with this staff will give some of the parents a little bit of a sense of ease going into this school year. I know everybody's anxious, apprehensive about what's going on, but we work with some incredible people, and I'm just really proud to be part of this community. That's it.
Thanks, Larry. And Marla?
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Well,
Whoop. I think you know what, Marla, let me try to unmute you again. And okay, go ahead one more time. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I am really pleased with this schedule. I think it's a great idea. I think it solves some of the issues. So I think that it's something that I'm really excited about. One of the things that I am for myself, I've been in education for a while, and my daughter did do fairly well at the end of the school year with the teachers who did do a good job. So I'm really pleased to hear that you are going to have some more accountability measures in. So thank you for putting those in. And I heard Mr. Hagquist, and I think that that's a true statement. When the teachers were throwing in, they weren't really given time to prepare. And I think now the administration will do that. And I'm hopeful of that. And so I think for me, it will be my responsibility to reach out to the administration and let them know if my student has a teacher who isn't doing a good job. And I just want to suggest that to the other parents, that if you are feeling that way, I didn't say anything at the end of the year because it was hold harmless and it was such a big learning curve. But from this point going forward, I do think parents have some accountability to let the administration know if their students aren't doing well. I do have a question in here eventually. One other piece of that is my daughter said that sometimes she didn't know what questions to ask a teacher because she would get too far behind, or she just didn't know enough to know what to ask. So I think that that's something that teachers need to be aware of, that, when somebody was saying, well, there'd be teacher office hours and things like that. And my daughter said, well, I'm not even sure what questions to ask sometimes. So I think teachers need to be very aware with that and make sure they're checking for understanding with their students. So that would be some input I have from my student that we weren't doing. I said, well, email your teacher, talk to your teacher. And she'd say, I don't even know what to ask. So I think that's important. And so on that same line, has the district decided to do any kind of guidance for the parents, like how to set up a good work learning station rather than letting the kids be in their beds, or turning on the cameras? I personally am noticing I wasn't on camera for a while. I don't like to be on camera either, but I think it's much more effective when I'm talking for it to be my face on here so that people can put a voice to my face. And I know that I'm wondering, is there a problem with teachers requiring that? Is there any privacy issues or things like that? Or could that be a requirement that teachers say students have to have their full face on camera? And then what else is going to be done with that? What else is going to be done to teach parents how to help their kids when they're at home, like setting a schedule? I mean, I can just go on and on. There's a lot of information parents need to know, because I've never wanted to homeschool my kid. I've never wanted to be independent and study. But given this circumstance, that's what I'm going to choose to do. And I can muddle through it. But if some educators know how to do it and know how, because a lot of kids have been homeschooled for a long time. So there are people who know how to do this well. Can we get some resources as parents of what to do? Thank you.
So I definitely would like to provide some opportunities to our parents this school year as it relates to distance learning and how to best support your student at home. In relation to the comment regarding being able to see the person that you're interacting with, a couple things about that. One, we actually need to look at a student's bandwidth. They actually might not have the bandwidth to have their video live while they're going through the instruction. And then two, and this is to a bigger point, in that we need to make sure that we're making connections with our students and that they feel comfortable essentially opening up their home to everyone around them, classmates and staff. And so we need to create that comfort zone, if you will, within each of our periods. And also related to not knowing what question maybe to ask, we definitely want to hear from parents, guardians, if they see that their child is struggling, and please obviously encourage your child to step forward and just make an appointment on the office hours. And if they're not feeling comfortable for whatever reason at that time, then please do so on their behalf. And then we can bridge that gap and really help everybody out. The last thing we want is for anybody to fall behind. And the last thing we want is for our students to feel, for whatever reason, maybe a little uncomfortable putting themselves out there.
Lito, if I may, as
Absolutely.
well. I just wanted to add to that. I think that's a really great point regarding educating our parents a little bit on some of the things they can do. And I'm sure that same kind of question would happen at all of the grade levels. So I participate in a Zoom call every week with all of the county superintendents, as well as the county health officer and other folks. I'm betting that somebody out there has put together a nice little kind of a package in terms of what that might look like, and especially right now in the era of COVID. So I'll ask that question to that group of folks, and perhaps we can find some resources and push something out for our parents when that time comes.
Thank
right.
you, Marla.
We have 3 more. Oh, go ahead. You were just going to say it, Shane. Go ahead.
Sorry, Lita, I was stepping on you. We have 3 more folks that have their hand raised, and we'll get to those 3, and then we're going to kind of toss it back to Lito and to wrap our town hall up here. Laurel?
Hi, so my question is about the protocol for if a student has the virus. Like, what will happen to the other students that were exposed, because a fever isn't always consistent and it can like come and go. So if a student has like has told the staff that they contracted the virus, what would happen with the other students who were exposed to it?
So if we get confirmation that a student or staff member has contracted COVID, we will work closely with our county public health as to making a determination as to what steps we need to take to ensure that the rest of the student body and staff are kept safe. And so it really is going to be a case-by-case basis in conjunction with county health.
Thanks, Laurel. And Jennifer?
I have one last question. Do you have a drop dead date for us? You're going to have a lot of families with kids in multiple grades, different schools. The more time we can get to make arrangements for childcare or other necessary schedule changes, the amount of time we can get to do that is going to be vital to a lot of us. So I'd like to know if you can offer us a drop dead date when you're going to have something in place, a final schedule, so that we know and we can start making those plans. Thank you.
Dr. Porras, you want to take that one?
Sure. We have a board meeting coming up this Thursday, and open session starts at 6:30. And on that agenda is an action item asking the board to consider the plans that we have now recommended, and this plan would be part of that. And then we'll get direction from the board regarding the next steps and pursue it from there. So we're hoping soon, but I do encourage you to be part of that conversation. That's only a couple of days away, but we do need our board to look at the recommendations that we're posting and then help us to land on that timeline.
And Sarah?
Thank you again. One question regarding student privacy and cameras. We talked about the cameras at home. I'm assuming then there will be cameras in the classroom. Is that confirmed that there will be cameras in the classroom recording while students are actually in the classroom as well?
I can take this one, Lito. We've had at least 5 teachers who have expressed interest in potentially having the site or the district purchase lapel mics where a teacher could be lecturing during class, where if the A through L group is there in the morning, the M through Z group could at the very least listen along, take notes, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. So there's no actual looking at children and students. So like their privacy in the classroom, they're not going to be seen disciplined or being called out, so that it can be recorded within the days of technology. I'm concerned about their privacy in situations such as that.
I think I can answer that a little bit. We definitely have the student privacy matter foremost in mind. It's a lot like what happened, worldwide with Zoom, and they're trying to fix some of that work. Right now, just in general, the Google platform that we're using is helping us with some of the privacy issues. We'll definitely work with the teachers in the classroom that will be recording. Most likely, we'll probably just hear the teacher more than see it, and the camera may very well be directed just at whatever instructional materials the students are looking at. So I think the intent is to look at the materials and not at the students. So I think we'll mitigate a lot of what you're concerned about. But I thank you for bringing that up, because we'll also make sure we talk about that too.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time this evening.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right, everyone. Again, as I started off, thank you for being here this evening. I really appreciate the questions and the comments. It's given us a lot more to think about. And again, thank you to the students. Very grateful that you were able to be here this evening and give your input as to this schedule and the other schedules as well. So next steps. Shortly after we conclude this evening, I will send a email to parents and guardians through Catapult, and it will include the survey specifically geared to this schedule. So giving your input to this schedule. Students will also receive the survey, and it will be sent to their email, and it'll come from my email account, so they will get it. So parents and guardians, please take a moment to let your student know that there's an email from the principal, but it's a good one. And after I send that survey, I'm going to send you another survey. And this one will only be sent to parents and guardians. And this is essentially a district-wide survey. Was sent earlier to our elementary and middle school. And this is to get your input as to where you stand right now as it relates to having your student come to school. And this is just one step. We're going to take a second step with this survey as we get closer to school starting and see where you stand at that time. So parents, recapping, you'll get 2 emails from me, 2 surveys. Students will get the schedule survey to them. Survey is going to close July 15, okay? And as been mentioned by Dr. Porras, we will have a board meeting this Thursday, and we hope you will join us at that time as well. We will be giving our recommendations. So thank you very much. And Dr. Porras, any closing comments?
No, thank you, Mr. Garcia and Mr. Steinbach and everyone who's had a chance to be in here this evening. Again, your input has just been really great. We've gotten lots of emails, and most of them just very positive with lots of good suggestions, and we're trying to follow up on all those as best we can. So continue those emails as you see fit, and please be in touch, especially with the principal and the assistant principal at the site. With some of their other thoughts and ideas, so we can make sure to get everything included. And very proud of our students on there, and certainly, and most especially proud of our staff. I think you've heard a little bit of that tonight, but they are our educational experts, you know, and we know they're going to do a great job with our students, a very accountable job, and frankly, a very high quality job during this time. All of them are very excited about the professional development that they're doing and the work that they're doing together. So looking forward to having our instructional time back with you all. And once again, thank you for attending this evening.
Have a good evening, everyone.